Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, known for being Pokemon's first truly open world game, and infamous for this. Hey guys, my name is Dai, and this video is going to be about my recent playthrough of Pokemon Scarlet, a shiny only Nuzlocke while also doing Professor Oak's challenge. But it didn't start out this way. We'll get back to that later though. If you're unfamiliar with general shiny Nuzlocke rules, or shiny luck rules, they are catch a shiny before every badge. I'm limited to one shiny per route, and if a Pokemon faints, I'm no longer allowed to use it, or I need to release it. I decided to modify the rules by scratching the last two rules and just added that shinies are only mandatory for trainer battles and main story events. Here's how it started. The first thing I had to get through was the 45-minute tutorial section of the game where we met our 3 new friends as well as our 3 main storylines. Victory Road with Nimona, that consists of 8 gym badges. Path of Legends with Arven, where we need to acquire 5 Titan badges. And Starfall Street with Cassiopeia, destroying 5 Team Star bases for badges. I will not be saying that name again, so I will be referring to her as the boss. It was at this point that I decided to ignore them all to find my first shiny, and after 2 days of not finding any shinies and catching random Pokemon I encountered, this is when I decided I was going to do a Professor Oak's challenge as well. If you're unfamiliar, Professor Oak's challenge is catching every Pokemon available to you prior to each badge. Since I have an additional Switch and Pokemon Violet, I will be allowing myself to join a Union Circle with my other game to catch the Violet exclusives as well. So that allows me to catch the majority of the decks before the first badge. I already had 73 Pokemon caught at this point, so we'll start our count from here. The first Terra raid I came across after making this decision just happened to be a Shroomish, which is going to make catching the rest of the decks so much easier, given the fact that it evolves into Breloom, which can learn False Swipe as well as status moves like Spore. I personally think I didn't utilize this Terra raid feature enough for this challenge, since there is a large pool of Pokemon in the 1 and 2 star dens. Another feature I may have overlooked is movement. I can only travel as fast as Koraidon can, since we're not allowed to collect any Titan badges. There is one little workaround though. While on Koraidon, if you walk up to a slope, turn around, press jump and hold forward, spam jump after this point, then you can reach places you typically shouldn't be able to get to at this point in the game. This is considered an exploit to some, but I think it adds more creativity to the challenge. Another obstacle was the fact that any Pokemon caught over the level of 20 won't obey me. The only way to change that is by collecting my first gym badge, which we can't do for quite some time. I made my way through the western provinces, catching every Pokemon I didn't have already. I acquired my 100th Pokemon, and many people's first shiny, Gyarados. And after catching my 101st Pokemon, Shroomish evolved into Breloom. Very convenient considering at this point in West Province Area 3 that I started to struggle to catch Pokemon. With this newly found struggle, I decided to call it a day for day 3, ending with a total of 132 Pokemon caught. Day 4. It was becoming clear that I was seriously underleveled, and the trouble of catching Pokemon only got worse as I worked my way toward Castleroy Lake. And it was also here that I encountered my first Gimmighoul, a Pokemon that I completely forgot about, and I remember how much of a pain it was to evolve. But, I think I'll just worry about that one later. After catching all I could tolerate at the time, I made my way to Dali Zappa Passage, toward the plethora of Pokemon that inhabit Glisado Mountain. The area contains a lot of higher level Pokemon as well, but the mountain wasn't the main target. It's actually what was on the other side. By the time I got to the first Pokemon Center on the mountain, I had to restock on all the Pokeballs I've been using, as well as selling items that I've been picking up. Since we can't battle any trainers until we find a shiny, this is our means of making money. I reached my final destination of North Province Area 3 Pokemon Center. You can probably guess why I'm here. I did forget some things, so now that we open the ability to fast travel back here, we need to grab some ingredients. I went back to Medali to stop by Sure Cans for some pickles, an artisan bakery for ham, mustard, and mayonnaise. Now that we have everything, we can go back and start our picnic. We'll be making a ham sandwich that increases normal type encounters. With this sandwich active, we'll be able to encounter Blissey and Chansey at high rates, which gives us a ton of XP to level up and evolve Pokemon. During this grind, leveling up Breloom was a must for the rest of the catching that had to be done. Other than that, my party was a revolving door of Pokemon to maximize my dex entries. Man, I sure hope this doesn't backfire on me later. But after doing this for the rest of the day, I left off with 187 Pokemon in the dex. Day 5. I decided to take a break from grinding evolutions to explore more of the map, with my now level 52 Breloom. I felt like I was more prepared for the rest of the Pokemon in the northern provinces, and headed towards Area 2. When I got to the Pokemon Center, there was an outbreak of Bisharp. I thought, hunting my first shiny is a much better way to take a break from the grind of the Pokedex. If you're not familiar with shiny hunting, then why are you even here? No, I'm just kidding. Outbreaks are the simplest way to increase your shiny odds in this game. Finding a random Pokemon running around at a base odds of 1 in 4096. But if you knock out 30 Pokemon, it doubles your odds from the base of 1 in 4096 to 1 in 2048. And if you knock out 60, it doubles again to 1 in 1365. Of course, there are more ways to increase those odds, but those won't be available to us until our challenge is done. I knocked out 60 Bisharp and spent the next 3 hours looking for a shiny. With no luck, it only involved Sandygast into Palisand. Yeah, that's all I have to show for it. I explored a little more of the North Province, making the jump to Tagtree Thicket, immediately grabbing Mimikyu, Impidimp, Pawniard, and Morgrem, as well as picking up some crucial evolution items. After spending a little more time in the surrounding area, I had 216 Pokemon in the dex, and this is also where things got a little out of hand. I went back to the rigorous grind of evolving Pokemon, and thanks to my ADHD, I had recorded hours of faded screens because I couldn't keep myself from focusing on knocking out Blisseys, and who knows what day I'm on. Roll a montage. 生麦生米生卵なんもないからお店に買いに行こう赤パジャマ黄パジャマ茶パジャマぐちゃぐちゃなまま置かれててめっちゃ邪魔カエルぴょこぴょこみぴょこぴょこ買えば増えて今の10個ぴょこぴょこ祝新春ジャズシャンソンショーまず3周回って優秀賞生麦生米生卵なんもないからお店に買いに行こう赤パジャマ黄パジャマ茶パジャマぐちゃぐちゃなまま置かれててめっちゃ邪魔カエルぴょこぴょこみぴょこぴょこ買えば増えて今の10個ぴょこぴょこ祝新春ジャズシャンソンショー3周回って優秀賞隣の客はよくかき食う客だよく食う時に聞き耳立てたら畑やぶ焼けかけた After all that, I hunted a Makuhita outbreak with no luck just to continue catching to add to my Pokedex total, while also getting evolutions of walking 1,000 steps together with Reller, Bramblin, and Palmo to get Rabska, Bramblegast, and Palmont. Starting a new day with 276 Pokemon, I guess I was a little excited to get back to roaming around for new Pokemon to catch, because I started the recording here. Yup, our first shiny for the challenge, a shiny Hoppip, at the base odds of 1 in 4096. Also, we were lucky that Hoppip was caught at the level 20, so he would obey us. It's unfortunate that I didn't get the discovery aspect of our first shiny for the challenge, because in my opinion, that's the best part. Especially when it's not a Pokemon you're actively hunting and you're just casually strolling around. What the? Pardon my French. I think it's safe to say that our luck has already peaked for this challenge, and it's only our second shiny out of 18. Another full odds shiny. Shiny Pawniard. We'll call him Booberry because it was October when I caught it. Yes, I know we are into the next year. Give me a break. Unfortunately, we won't be relying on Booberry too much, since it was caught beyond the level cap of 20. We've returned to the final stretch of 100-ish Pokemon that we can obtain, but with our first 2 shinies under our belt. I'm going back to Tag Tree Thicket, where we are just going to roam around the area checking these trees. Oh, there's one right there. Well, never mind. But yeah, it's Applin, one of the rarer encounters in the game, and we can make a dragon encounter sandwich too. Well, we do need to catch a second one. With another lap or so around the area, we found our second Applin, evolving one into Flapple and one into Appleton. I finally made the trip to the southwestern town of Alfornada to add Klefki, Bennett, Bombirdier, and the whole Gothita line. Due to poor planning, this is where I start jumping all over the place to start patching all the holes in my Pokedex. Jumping back to Casseroya Lake to pick up Goomy and Sliggoo. And since it was already raining, I added Sliggoo to the party and gave it a rare candy to get the dex entry for Goodra. After a few more loose ends like Zangoose, Seviper, Phalanx, and stumbling across a Luminion in a Terror Raid den, I was rudely reminded of the Pokemon I have not yet obtained since they're only caught in the water. So I headed just west of Alfornada on the cliffside beach to catch a quillfish. And it was here why I should have utilized the raid dens more than I did. Trying to inch my way out into the water to try to get encounters with these Pokemon was dreadful. I ended up just running back and forth on the beach until I got a favorable spawn for Luvdisc. I made my way under the cliffside path to find a Skrelp and had to navigate between flying Magikarp while trying to lure over a Shelder and immediately evolved it into Cloyster. It was at this point where I realized that I never explored the northwestern section of the map, where you can only access by crossing the wooden bridge located on the north side of Casseroya Lake. On my way over, I found another watchtower to collect a large amount of Gimmighoul coins, while seed bombing myself. After crossing the bridge, the only 2 Pokemon that spawned on the other side that I didn't already have were Toxicroak and Fortress. But the most important thing I needed was the cracked pot, and I instantly dug Sinistea out of the box to evolve it into Poltegeist. Just when I thought I was getting away from the XP grind, I find myself making a ham sandwich and leveling up more Pokemon. One of the new evolutions that I was looking to complete in this sandwich was Primeape into Annihilape by using Rage Fist 20 times. The problem I realized after making the sandwich is that I caught my Primeape past level 20 so he wouldn't obey me. So we'll have to get back to that one on another sandwich. After getting some evolutions down, something seemed off with this encounter. I knocked out the Blissey so I could run into our third shiny for the challenge, Chansey. Not sure what the odds were on this one exactly, but considering it was fairly early into the sandwich and I was mainly going after Blisseys, with that in mind, I think this was full odds. We'll call it Broccoli and put it in our shiny box. Here's a live look at what my days looked like. Well, that's another shiny Chansey. Presumably full odds, right at the end of the same sandwich as the last one. Anytime I've done challenges like these, if I get duplicate shinies, then the second one doesn't count towards our total. We'll move Broccoli 2 into our shiny box as a keepsake, and we'll take that off the counter. Dragonair was 1 level shy of evolving, so I gave him a rare candy to get our Dragonite entry. I did the same for Skrelp for our Dragalge entry. I'm gonna be honest, I had to Google how to pronounce that. And then I fired up another ham sandwich, but considering the Pokemon I have in my party at this point, you can see why I didn't have a single Pokemon evolve during that sandwich. But the one thing I did find was a shiny Blissey. This was harder to spot than I was expecting, because it's a very similar shade of pink as a normal Chansey. And thankfully this one will count towards the challenge. We'll call her Cotton and put her in the shiny box. I made another ham sandwich to get some more difficult evolutions out of the way, like Arctobax into Baxcalibur, Dino into Zweilous, Gabite into Garchomp, and Pupitar into Tyranitar. I made my way just outside of Zapapico to look for an Orthworm. After running around all the tunnels made by the Titan Orthworm with no luck, I took my concern to good old trusty Google to find out that it's Titan locked. Meaning only after defeating the Titan that you can catch it. I picked up Barraskewda and Arrokuda in the tag tree thicket and was looking into my next step as I noticed an Applin outbreak. Having played through this game 3 times prior, I never once saw an outbreak for Applin, so I got right into knocking out Pokemon. After I hit 60 knockouts, 2 picnic resets, all in the span of 3 minutes, I found the little Granny Smith I was looking for. Our 5th shiny that will allow us to get 5 badges once we catch all of the Pokemon possible. We'll call it Leroy, no particular reason. Ever since I noticed I still need more water encounters, I've been checking more raid dens, and luckily I came across a Tynamo. Me and the gang knocked it out and caught it. I apparently decided to wise up by grabbing the level 15 Mankey I had in my boxes to level up at the Blissey farm and use Rage Fist without having to worry about it not listening to me. Not long after that, my Primeape evolved into Annihilate. Finishing up the Tynamo line, and the last of the harder evolutions in the game, or so I thought. I started a new game on Pokemon Violet. Went through another 30-minute intro of the game to get Sprigatito. As soon as I reached the first Pokemon Center, I traded over my Haunter to get my Gengar entry, and traded Sprigatito over to my playthrough. Then repeated the process for Fuecoco. I hopped in the Union Circle with my Violet game, and quickly evolved both of our new starters. One Pokemon I've been missing is Slackoth, and the only place to catch one is in trees in the southeastern part of the map. But to make it easier on myself, I just made a picnic with Ditto and Slacking until I found an egg in my basket. Then I ran around with a Flame Body Colossal until it hatched. Then my main focus, Violet exclusives. Catching Bagon, Dreepy, Misdreavus, I evolved it right away into Miss Magus, Passimian, a not-so-version exclusive Lucario. Then for the Charcadet evolutions, we went to knock out Bronzer and Sinistea for each version, to get the Auspicious Armor in Scarlet, to get Armor Rouge, and the Malicious Armor in Violet to get Ceruledge, Finizen into Palafin. Then I used all of my built-up XP candy to get Shelgon and Salamence. And lastly, Ice-Q. Scratch that. I had to pick up a Clauncher and level it up to evolve into Clawitzer. And now the last exclusive, Gulpin. I dug into another sandwich and hit the farm to get Toxapex, Swalot, and our final evolutions for our new starters. My next challenge was to knock out 3 Bisharp that hold a Leader's Crest. The way to identify which Bisharp had a Leader's Crest is by looking for the Bisharp in a pack of Pawniard. This is definitely one of the worst evolutions for this challenge, due to my Bisharp being caught beyond the level cap of 20, so it rarely obeyed me. Or so I thought. I realized I could knock their health down to 1 using Breloom, and then switch to my Bisharp for the finishing blow. After 3 Bisharp down and leveling up once, I got my King Gambit. I finally caught an Alomomola and a Bruxish after sitting Seaside 3 separate times with no luck. It was now time to focus on one of the most tedious evolutions in the game, Goldengo. My coin count was 570 from playing through with no real focus on this task. So we have some work to do. I made my way to Medali to pick up some Gimme Gold coins from this guy, and then I focused on hitting every watchtower and Ruin in Paldea. This took a lot longer than I anticipated due to having to pull moves like this to get to some areas. By the time I hit all the locations I could think of, I was sitting at 997 coins. Since I only needed a few coins, I went to the easiest place I could think of, which was the quarries of East Province Area 3, checking every scaffold and box. It didn't take long to get the 2 I was looking for, and all I had to do was level up Gimme Goal to get Goldengo. And last but not least, I leveled up Dracloak into Dragapult. Now you might be wondering, Dai, you only have 23 Pokemon left. There's 1 that is Titan locked, 2 of them are legendaries, and 14 of them are Paradox Pokemon. We have to be close to getting that first badge here soon. And you're absolutely right. That leaves 6 Pokemon left. Unfortunately, 2 of them can only be obtained after the 5th gym badge. But there are 4 more legendaries in each quarter of Paldea, referred to as the Ruinous Quartet. They can only be encountered by collecting the corresponding stakes. Ting Lu in the northwest, you need to find green stakes. Chiyu in the northeast, you need blue stakes. Chien Pao in the southwest is yellow stakes. And Wo Chien in the southeast is purple stakes. We are going to target all of the yellow stakes first, which can all be found in the southwestern quarter of the map. Some are easy to grab, like this one behind Cascarafa City Gym, but others require something I referred to earlier in the challenge. While on Koraidon, if you walk up to a slope, turn around, press jump and hold forward, spam jump after this point, then you can reach places you typically shouldn't be able to get to at this point in the game. This is considered an exploit to some, but I think it adds more creativity to the challenge. Using this technique, we're able to collect these stakes. Otherwise, we would be moving on to our first gym. After grabbing all these stakes, we hear the sound of the ruined door opening, allowing us to encounter Chien Pao, so we can spend the next 2 hours throwing Pokeballs at him until he finally gives up, clocking in our 378th Pokemon. We moved on to the purple stakes that can all be found in the southeastern quarter of Paldea, since the terrain in this area is tame compared to the northern half of the map. If you're interested in how I was able to access these stakes, let me know in the comments. I'd greatly appreciate if you liked the video and hit subscribe if you have enjoyed this challenge so far. I plan on doing more challenges on more Pokemon games, especially Pokemon Legends Z to A. Back to our hunt for our purple stakes. I'd say this region is the easiest to get these stakes since the vast majority of the area is rather flat and it only takes a few of these strategic jumps to get around. After we picked up our 8th and final stake, we hear the cries of Wo Chien. We rushed over to the shrine gate to bust our boy out. Unfortunately, since Wo Chien is a dark grass type, we can't use Spore, and it also has access to moves like Giga Drain that make it hard to keep its health low for better catch rates. This is definitely the most difficult member of the Ruinous Quartet to catch, based solely on those facts. But sure enough, we got him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Making this the last Pokemon we can catch before challenging the first gym. I was able to grab 4 stakes for Chi-Yu, but while attempting to reach a stake high up on a mountain, right next to the Area 2 Pokemon Center, I came across a little green bear to add to my shiny team. I named him how he looked and went back to trying to climb mountains backwards. It wasn't all a waste of time though, since while I was getting to areas I haven't yet explored in this playthrough, I got my 4th Chi-Yu stake, and 10 seconds later, I found yet another shiny. Oh no. This one was Hawlucha. After 2 false swipes, it was mine. His new government name is
Enemy SR-71 incoming.
After 2 days of attempting to climb with Koraidon, yes, 2 days, I threw all my shinies in a party and decided to collect my first badge. Out of my 18 options, I decided on the Open Sky Titan, since it grants Koraidon the ability to swim. which is crucial for collecting any of Ting Lu's stakes around Castleroy Lake. I would have went for the climbing ability, but I was severely underleveled for that Titan. Now that we can swim, we can access 2 of the stakes that are located in the center of the lake. But first we need to get the 2 stakes that are around Sato Desert. Only one requires some jumps. Then there are 2 stakes located around the edges of Glacado Mountain. 2 on the west side of the lake. Then easily the hardest one of them all, where I had to get a little flashy with the backwards jumps out of the water. Then I used an encounter method to jump. Okay, well, let's try that again. There it is. And lastly, on the bigger island in the middle, we had to use another encounter method to get to the highest ledge to get to the 8th and final stake. We made our way to the shrine door to encounter Ting Lu, our 380th Pokemon of the challenge. As you'd expect, it took quite some time, but we caught it. 380 Pokemon caught as we move on to our second badge. After the battle, our green boy evolved into a bigger green boy, and then with some XP candies, Hoppip evolved all the way up into Jumpluff. Our second badge, we flew straight to East Province Area 3 Watchtower, which takes us right to the second Titan that we are going to take down, the Lurking Steel Titan, which is one giant worm. The reason we're taking down this Titan next is because once we defeat it, we'll be able to encounter our Titan-locked Pokemon, Orthworm. After we put its health in the red, it runs away. We catch back up to it as it's eating, just in time for Arven to catch up to us. We take it out and get our new ability for Koraidon, high jumping. I was able to collect the 5th Chi-Yu stake. When I was attempting to traverse around some hills, I stepped into the Team Star base, but pay attention to where I'm at in relation to the wooden bridge. After the cutscene, it spawned me on the opposite side of the path that I stepped on. So honestly, I don't think I would have been able to get this stake without this, so I'm very fortunate that it worked out in my favor. I headed for Levincia Lighthouse to get the 7th stake, and while I was there, I grabbed an Orthworm. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to obtain the stake next to the lighthouse, since the sides of the cliff were completely vertical. We'll need the climbing ability. So let's head for the False Dragon Titan. After putting it in the red, we chased it down to finish it off. Then we had to take care of the actual Titan, Tatsugiri. It took a little while, but we defeated it to reach the Herba Mystica and gained yet another ability for Koraidon, and you guessed it, the climbing ability. All to obtain the last Pokemon available until our 5th gym badge. As you could probably guess, let's get the last 2 blue stakes so we can catch Chi-Yu. We went right back to Levincia Lighthouse to climb up to our 7th stake. Then our 8th stake is located right above the cave that the shrine is located in. Finally, after days of trying to grab these stakes, we're able to open the shrine to encounter Chi-Yu. After about 30 Pokeballs, we were able to collect our 382nd Pokemon. As we move on to our 4th badge total, I realized I was wrong about being able to get our next 2 Pokemon after the 5th gym badge. We actually unlocked the Metal Coat after 3 gym badges, and the King's Rock after 4 gym badges. So let's try to remember that correctly this time. I made my way to Cortondo to complete the Olive Roll gym test, where you just need to move this olive-shaped ball into a basket, which allows us to challenge the gym leader Katie. I took her out pretty decisively since this is supposed to be the first gym badge you obtain, with all of her Pokemon being between levels 14 and 15. We collected our 4th gym badge from Mommy. Moving on. We made our way to Artisan Gym to take on the gym test, where we need to find all 10 Sunfloras scattered around the center of the town. Once we collected all 10, we brought them back to the fenced-in area to complete the test. Now all that's left to do is defeat Brassius the gym leader. This battle was pretty quick as well, considering he is naturally the 2nd gym leader, and his Pokemon are between the levels of 16 and 17. After the defeat, Brassius started tweaking. After he calmed down, we were given the 5th badge, and we snapped a picture to go our separate ways. We are currently at 5 badges and 7 shinies, so we're able to collect 2 more badges before we have to start hunting more shinies. We flew to Levincia to challenge the gym, but apparently I needed a practice battle with Nimona even after saying no. I made slight work of her Pokemon and evolved Applin into Flapple. For the gym test, I hopped on Iono's stream and had to find Director Clavel 3 times, which wasn't too hard with his bright red suit. With this test passed, we're clear to take on her gym. I'm not sure why I decided to start out with Pinky since it's weak to electric type, but I did have a bit of a level advantage. I thought I remembered her Pokemon being higher level, but I'm clearly mistaken. We were able to make it through to defeat Iono, and claimed our 3rd gym badge, and 6th badge total. Along with that, we're able to grab a metal coat from Delibird Presents, and fire up a link trade with our other game to acquire Scissor. After that, I decided to get some shiny hunting out of the way when I noticed a Rockruff outbreak. So I made my way there to knock out 60 Rockruff. You're going to be seeing a lot of outbreak hunts due to the fact that I wanted to use Pokemon I haven't really caught before, and I've caught almost all of the isolated encounters in my previous playthroughs. And after about 15 minutes, we found our new party member. We named it Huck and moved on to our 4th gym badge. It seems that I stopped playing after catching our shiny Rockruff. I got on the next day and forgot to hit record. So just letting you know that I didn't forget Cascarafa City Gym, I did in fact beat it. So let's add that to the count. And I also grabbed a King's Rock from Delibird Presents, and it was after I traded for Slowking that I realized I didn't start recording. So we can add that to the counter too. That's my bad. Let's get back to the rest of the challenge. I decided to keep tackling the Titans, with the next Titan being Cloth, the Stony Cliff Titan. And since this is supposed to be the first Titan you encounter after the tutorial, it was a breeze. I could have went without Arven on this one, but we do need him to chef up a Sammy so Koraidon can get the ability to dash. We're finally at the point where our badge count has caught up to our shiny count, so there's some hunting that needs to be done. I noticed a Sableye outbreak appeared under Alfrenata, so I made my way there and spent the last 3 hours of the night knocking out Sableye and doing loops around the area. When I got on the next day, within the first 2 hours, I found myself a bright yellow Sableye. I see it. With our 9th shiny acquired, we made our way to Asado Desert to encounter Great Tusk, the Quaking Earth Titan. I didn't really take into account that after defeating it, we could add another Pokemon to our Dex counter, since it becomes a static encounter afterwards, or else I would have done this a lot sooner. Arven and I defeated it, and we acquired the gliding ability for Koraidon. And since this is the last Titan, that means it's also the last ability we needed. We made our way to the Pokopath Laboratory to get word from Professor Seda about our final mission, meeting her at the bottom of Area 0. Before we can do that though, we need to finish up our other storylines. The final battle with Arven will have to wait until I can level up my team a bit more. But I moved the date a day forward on my Switch to encounter Great Tusk again, and this time to add it to our Pokedex. With that, we have 383 Pokemon in our Dex, and before we can make more progress on our badges, we need to catch another shiny. I picked the game back up the next day and made our way to an Arcanine outbreak, and as soon as I was starting my recording, I noticed something. A nearby shiny Knackley. Luckily enough, this is a shiny that I've never gotten before. I used a quick ball and we collected our 10th shiny. And since I just got to the outbreak, I decided to hunt a second shiny here, so afterwards we could just move on to collect 2 consecutive badges. After taking out 60 Arcanine, I was showing my friends my shinies so far. Not even 2 minutes later, I turned around and saw our 11th shiny.
Is that it?
After failing a few balls, we got it.
There we go.
Who's a good boy? You're a good boy. It was also here that I realized our shiny Flapple has an uncommon mark, which our Pokemon has a 1 in 50 chance to have this mark, which is definitely one of the most common marks, but cool nonetheless. I made my way to Alfrenada to take on the gym test. We emoted our way through the test and passed with flying colors. All that was left was to take down Tulip, the psychic gym leader. Booberry led the charge, and since Dark type is 2 times effective against Psychic, I swept through a team to collect our 5th gym badge and 10th badge total. Then I was forced to battle Nemono once again, and the only good thing that came of it is that Knackley evolved into Knacklestack. Our next gym is in Medali, where we need to order a special menu item to pass the gym test at a local restaurant called the Treasure Eatery. Our clue is how regulars season their dishes. So we head over and order grilled rice balls, medium serving, and we want that extra crispy Fire Blast style, garnished with lemon. With that cleared, we take on Larry, a normal type gym leader. So we lead with Hawlucha, our fighting type, and we high jump kicked our way through his Pokemon to collect gym badge number 6. On to our next hunt. I made a fairy encounter sandwich and ran around part of Tag Tree Thicket for 3 hours trying to find a shiny Mimikyu. After getting tired of that, I went to a dino outbreak, in the same cave that Chiyu's shrine is in, and spent another 3 hours there, just to move on to a Larvitar outbreak. I knocked out 60 and began looking for a good spot to reset a picnic. After 40 minutes, our shiny appeared. I attempted a quick ball, which failed, so I switched to Pinky and put it to sleep, and the next Ultra Ball sealed the deal. For our next badge, I decided to get to work on Operation Starfall, since we haven't made any progress on this storyline yet. I swept the floor with a grunt at the front gate, since this is naturally an early game badge, and quickly defeated the 30 Pokemon quota inside the base, just to meet the boss of the Dark type base, Giacomo. I did start out with my newly acquired Clint Eastwood, since he was closer in level, but he didn't last too long against Reverum, so I finished it off with my next lowest level Pokemon, Huck. We broke down his heavily modified Reverum and collected our 12th badge total. Upon leaving the base, the boss calls us to transfer over our prize money, and Penny immediately blows her cover and gives us materials for TMs. Here we are again, looking for another shiny to hunt. I'm spending so much time looking for shinies, just to spend 30 minutes clicking through dialogue and 5 minutes of actually battling for these badges. Luckily for you guys, I started the day again without starting my recording. So here's the Switch recorded clip. This section wouldn't have been long anyways, since this was immediately after knocking out 60 Tadpole, and honestly running into the shiny on accident, not knowing it was shiny until it sparkled. The quick ball was all it took, and thankfully we can jump right into our next badge, but not before evolving it into Bellibolt first. We broke into the Fire type Team Star base, and took out 30 Pokemon to make way for Mila. This was another fairly quick battle, since her Pokemon were only in the upper 20s in level. I was able to acquire our 13th badge, and I got my money and my materials on the way out once more. I made my way back to the North Province Area 2 Pokemon Center to knock out 3 Bisharp to evolve Booberry into King Gambit. And I ended up evolving Clint Eastwood into Pupitar, as well as Afroman into Garganackle. Then I made my way to a Finizen outbreak, where I spent 2 hours swimming around South Paldean Sea, looking for a purple dolphin that I was finally able to find and catch on our first quick ball. making that our 14th shiny. We kept going with Operation Starfall Street, and went to the base located in Tag Tree Thicket. We beat the child outside the gate and knocked out 30 Pokemon inside the base, just to encounter the boss, Atticus. We quickly took out his Skunk Tank, Muck, Revroom, and his Starmobile to collect yet another badge. We quickly moved on to a Spoink outbreak, right outside Mesagoza. I knocked out 60 Spoink and ran around for 3 hours looking for a little pink guy with a bowling ball on his head. Whoops, wrong pink guy with a bowling ball on his head. We finally found him, and once again landing a critical catch on our first quick ball. With our 15th shiny acquired, we made our way to Montenevera to take on the gym test, which consisted of 3 double battles, where we beat up a child, Miley Cyrus, and Moist Critical. What a combo, am I right? With the gym test passed, we took on a Rhyme, the ghost-type gym leader. With our over-leveled Pinky and Booberry, we ate her team up. And collected our 7th gym badge and 15th badge total. Next stop was the Gallade outbreak, and shortly after building my combo, I found our shiny. Or so I thought. This is actually my first ever failed shiny, seeing as I really only started shiny hunting in 2020 on Sword and Shield. Unfortunately, it took another 3 hours to make up for our mistake and find and catch our actual shiny. With that, we can grab our 16th badge, the Team Star Fairy Base, with the boss Ortega running the show. It didn't take much to take him down considering the level of my Pokemon, but we got it done and collected our badge. Next, I pounced on a Pachirisu outbreak, and luckily for me, the shiny appeared way before completing our combo, and also very lucky it didn't disappear, since it took me so long to notice. I understand it is a hard one to spot from a distance, but how long did it take you to notice? Or did you notice at the same time that I did? Either way, we used a classic quick ball since I was scared to fail another shiny. And just like that, we can tackle our second to last badge. This time, it's the final boss of Team Star, Airy, who specializes in fighting types. I started out with Gallade, but ended up relying on Pinky the Jumpluff for majority of the fight. And thanks to Pinky, we were able to collect our last badge for Operation Starfall. For our final shiny, we went to a Phalanx outbreak, and at the start, I forgot what the shiny even looked like. So I decided that I would find out whenever it appeared. After our combo and 4 hours later, I jumped over the shiny and encountered it. It ended up popping out of about 25 balls before it finally settled in. With our final shiny acquired, we can take on our 18th and final badge, which sits atop Mount Glacedo. We skied down the hill on Koraidon in record time to complete the gym test, just to encounter Grusha, the ice-type gym leader. I decided to use more of my team through this battle to prepare for the Elite Four, and assess what types I wanted to bring with me through the champion assessment. I finished off the rest of her team quite easily, and collected the 18th and final badge. All we need to do now is defeat Arvin in a quick battle at the lighthouse to complete the Path of Legends. As I was hitting some terror raids between the lighthouse and Mesagoza, I came across a random shiny Hoppip, which of course I caught. Then we met up with the big boss Penny in the schoolyard at night to wrap up Starfall Street. And one by one, I took down the Elite Four to earn our chance to challenge the champion Gita, which ironically I thought was easier than some of the Elite Four, but we defeated her to earn champion rank. But that doesn't finish the Victory Road storyline. In fact, it's a battle against Nimona, surprise, which actually kind of makes sense because she gave me a harder time than any of the last 5 battles I had. But just as you'd imagine, we cleaned out her party to wrap up the Victory Road storyline. Before we finish up the last section of our challenge in Area 0, if you enjoyed the video so far and would like to keep up to date with me, you can follow these socials on screen or in the description. I appreciate you sticking around, so let's finish up our decks. Through the natural progression of the Area 0 story, we had to visit 4 research stations, see some new and familiar Pokemon, and grab some key items for finishing the epilogue. By the time we reached the final gate to meet Professor Seda, I was able to collect the Paradox Pokemon Fluttermane and Screamtail. We defeated the Pokemon we released from the gate, and we entered to encounter Robo Seda. We were tasked with stopping the time machine, so, in short, we did, by defeating Robo Seda in a battle.
Really?
Then it glitches out again, and we battled box legendaries to finish the epilogue. After sitting through the credits, I made my way back to Area 0 Research Lab 4 to pick up a Brute Bonnet. Then we went off the beaten path near Research Lab 3 to grab Roaring Moon. Then outside Research Lab 2, past the stone cliff to the left, we can find and catch Slitherwing. At the top of the cliff that we passed up before, we can find and catch Sandy Shocks. At this point, I decided to go all the way back down to the bottom to encounter Koraidon, which, of course, I just used a Master Ball. With all those acquired, I joined a Union Circle, because all that are left are Paradox Violet exclusives. So I made my way back to each of the areas we visited before to grab the other exclusives. The Stone Cliff to grab Iron Bundle, Iron Moth, and Iron Thorns. Then we dropped back down near Research Lab 4 to encounter Iron Hands. Then, as I went further down the path, I found Iron Treads, the future form of Great Tusk. Then we made our way back off the beaten path near Research Lab 3 to encounter Iron Valiant. And in the same area, we can encounter Iron Jugulus, making that our 399th Pokemon. The only way to get our last Pokemon is by trading for the Violet Box Legendary, Miraidon. Since I was already in a Union Circle, we got it done to complete the 400 Pokemon dex. All that's left to do is grab our reward from our biology teacher, Jacques. The shiny charm. Then Director Clavel came to give us our diploma for completing the Pokedex. And that's all for this Professor Oak's Shiny Only challenge. Thank you to everyone that watched, and consider subscribing as I wish to continue to make more of these types of videos. This has been Dai, and I hope to see you guys again. Peace. Oh. I guess I need to get the DLC for this game.